Mr. Chairman, where
That's
that?
Fred,
Hey,
right?
welcome back, everybody.
That's drive.
So we're going to keep right on going. Our next agenda item is an action item. This is a property tax exemption. Assessor Sue, come on up.
Hello, again.
Welcome back.
Thanks.
Remind me what we did. We tabled this one?
Nope, Chrissy did her best to calculate, off of their calendar what she thought was their personal use and what wasn't their personal use. Anyway, you originally approved 265 days of exempt use with 100 days of commercial use on April 29th. And I believe Monday, this fine lady was able to get a hold of Christy and go over the calendar. And so we are now asking for you to do an amended decision on that and grant them
Okay.
335 days of exempt use and 30 days for commercial.
Okay, would you mind stating your name for the record and if you want to add anything else?
Yes, my name is Bethany Pratt. I'm the administrative director at Camp Idahaven.
Anything you want to add, Bethany? Are you good with this?
Well, our lawyer has said this doesn't sound right to him. I'm repeating other words. And has concerns. That the way we're running camp is how we've always run camp, and it's always been approved. It's always been a tax exempt situation. So he's curious as to what has changed, and has some concerns about the splitting of hairs. One of the as I was looking through the calendar with Christy last week, I mean, it was just ironic to me. And then I was listening into the commissioners meeting last week, and some of the questions from Paradise Point, and then also I heard the ice rink, the conversation about the ice rink, which is a tax or a nonprofit, not obviously religious, but all the little details of things like, well, for the ice rink, it's the retail portion is less than 3%. And I hear all these things and I'm like, wow, well, one of the groups that represents 10 of the 30 days is 20 women who quilt. Nobody wants to host 20 women who quilt. I assure you, nobody wants to host 20 women that quilt. Do you know how much space it takes up to host 20 women that quilt? So we take all of the tables out of our cafeteria, and they set up their tables and their sewing machines and their ironing boards and their whatever, and then they're ironing all day and all night.
Oh, my goodness.
And they never leave the building. Well, if we want to talk about 3% or less, I mean, they're in the main lodge. They never step foot out of the main lodge. They eat and they quilt. And that is certainly not, of our 11 acres, that's a pretty tiny footprint. And so I just, listening to this makes me just think, wow, I mean, should I be splitting hairs and argue differently for each group that comes in? I can understand if our lawyer says, no, I can't understand why any one of these groups that we host would be exempt or would not be exempt. However, there's a huge difference between our group coming in and using our 11 acres. Like the way we run summer camp, we use pretty close to the 11 acres. There's kids running everywhere. But when a quilting group comes in the spring and it's mud season, they're hanging out in the main lodge, so we have a lot of questions. So I anticipate that there will be some follow through from the conference's end, from our lawyer's end, saying what's going on.
Well, and I think it's important that you kind of understand the reason why we've gotten a little more deeper into it is some court cases, one of them originating out of Custer County, which you could tell your attorney to research, that kind of set the precedence on a lot of what is exempt and what is not. There's a little bit of code that's changed from the legislature, and this is definitely appealable back to us. It's called the BOE in June, end of June, first part of July. And if you don't like that decision, they can appeal it to the state, BTA. and then they make actual final decisions.
Or
So,
district court, they can go to
and
district
then you
court.
can, after that, if you don't like that, you can go to district court. So there's options. I mean, it's,
Sure.
and we, honestly, we make mistakes once in a while, so make sure we're doing our job too. Okay?
When I think we're looking at it, we understand your concerns, but if you look at your bylaws, how are you structured and set up? Because the state code is pretty clear on the fact that you have to be honoring whatever your bylaws stated, that why you're a nonprofit. And so we're looking at that too. I mean, we've looked at a lot of these. The change is clarity through court systems and legislation, so.
And another thing too is, and I don't know what the situation is, we'll just use the quilters for an example. You guys are applying under 63-602B, which is the religious exemption. And I don't know if you're renting your property out to the quilters or if you are just letting them use it. And if that's the case, you may want to apply under both 602B and 602C, just depending on, if you are hosting these things for community events and you're not charging for them, that possibly, I would want your lawyer to read through 602C to make sure that you,
Right.
comply.
Right.
But there's an application for each code section.
Yeah.
And so the questions for each code came right out of code, to answer those questions. So it
Yeah.
might just be something to think about.
Yeah, and you have to think about the camps up here that are commercial camps that do this for a living.
Yeah.
And charge folks, so you gotta treat everybody as fair as you can, and that's what we're trying to do with this, so.
You know, one thing that's changed is that the 501c3, and Quaker Hill and a lot of them, and it's across the state, that they had always rented it out to 501c3 charitable
Yeah.
entities. Well, when it changed 2 years ago with the state, that went away. They wanted to look at it as just your religious entity. And so all of them are on the same plane as you are right now, asking the question. And the only thing you can direct it is go to your legislators.
Right.
What's changed? Can we change this act, tweak it, whatever?
Right.
Because it's a problem for all of us. A lot of them, that's where their money source was.
Yeah.
To help run the camps. And
Yeah.
you guys know that.
Yeah. Right, absolutely. I mean, we don't run in the black.
Yeah.
We are heavily subsidized by the Adventist Church organization.
So that's all we can tell them. If
Yeah.
you want this changed,
Mhm.
go back to your legislators, because it came from the state level to us, and all we can do is follow the rules.
Okay, any more questions? Then I'm gonna go ahead and make the motion that we amend the exemption for the Idaho Conference of Seventh-day Adventists, Camp Ida Haven, 335 days exempt and 30 days commercial. We have a second. We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye, motion carried. Thanks, Bethany, for coming in.
Thank you. Thanks, Bethany.
Okay, our last agenda item, Candace, are you ready? Is an executive session for indigent. This is 74-2061D. So I need a motion and a second, please.
I'll make a motion for Idaho Code 74-2061D.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to go into executive 74-2061D for indigent. By roll call, please.
Thompson, aye.
Mop and I.
Hasbrook, aye. Doug, we will be in at 4:20.